Hi everyone, my name is Sona.
My name is Sweetie, and welcome to
What They Don't Tell You podcast.
the pre-dental edition.
So today's kind of a juicy topic. We are going to talk about what criteria you should look for when choosing a dental school.
And what they don't tell you.
And what they don't tell you about the school that's not advertised on the websites, things you can only find out through specific Facebook groups, through D4s and D3s, the things that, again, they do not tell you.
What are D4s and D3s? Like, how would you explain that?
Oh, yeah, for, I guess, terms if you don't know. So a D3 is a dental student in their third year of dental school, and D4 is a dental student in their fourth year, so their last year. Dental school is 4 years.
Yes, it is.
There's different kinds of criteria where you should look into before even applying to a school, because this is expensive. You know, each school will have a initial fee and a secondary fee.
A criteria would be location. Don't apply to a school where it's in a state or somewhere where you're going to feel unhappy. When you're applying to schools, keep in mind that if you only get accepted to one school, make sure that when you make that choice that you're okay with the schools that you
People apply so broadly, and then they only get into the most expensive one, and they're forced to go there, and they're like, wait a second, that's a crazy amount of debt, which you didn't even think about when applying to all these schools. And the most expensive schools, for example, I feel like we can say it, it's like NYU's, they accept a majority of people because they know how outlandish their prices are.
Yeah, it's insane. I think about what the school offers. So when I think about costs, I immediately think about, okay, well, what kind of clinical experience am I going to get? What am I going to learn? What kind of programs do they offer?
Any dental student I talk to, their only criteria is cost, which kind of bothers me because they always say, like, trust me, I get the same education at every school, just worry about cost, cheapest school, go to that one. And as much as I agree a little bit, but like not completely. Because I feel like I want to enjoy my 4 years. I want to be very involved. I want to love my location. I want to be close to my classmates. And that's not going to happen in a class size of 300. So I don't know. I don't really agree completely with that one.
See, I wouldn't really mind being in a big school with big classrooms. So that's not really something. But again, like different criteria.
Exactly.
Different
So class size.
So class size isn't one of those things for me. Cost is, and location is a big one. And a lot of times I think those come in hand. Like based on the location, the cost of the school changes too. I think Southern schools may be a little bit less than like NYU or schools in Boston, like up north. So,
but I think those are hard to get into because they are kind of public as opposed to these private universities that are way more and they kind of have the name. It doesn't really matter where you get your degree.
That's true. Just remember your why. And hopefully that aligns with the school that, you get into. So what's another criteria that you think it's important, that you hear a lot, that you've been hearing a lot lately?
In the order, it goes cost, location, and then, so this is something which I never thought about until now, until like choosing between multiple schools, which is the clinical experience. So this is a very hot topic.
It is. There's so much tea.
There's so much here.
Yeah.
And again, you would never know unless you spoke to someone in dental school, and not even like a first or second year, a third or fourth, who are going through the clinical requirements, talking about whether their school's not supporting them or like a struggle for them to get patients, the struggle for them to even graduate on time.
Right.
And these are the real stories that are never told.
It's scary, but it's good to know, again, educate yourself so that you can make a decision or the best decision for yourself. I've spoken to people that share some of the stories, like not having enough supplies or having to go get your own patient or something like that, but I don't really understand.
Exactly. Whatever you're mentioning right now, I think these are the questions you should be asking, these D3s, D4s. It's like, do you need to find your own patients? Is supplies included within tuition? Are these typodont teeth to practice, is it included or do you have to pay? Because I've heard in a school recently, you have to pay each time. And it's like, you're already paying so much. Like, that should be included. Clinical experience is something I didn't even really think about. The only thought I had is, let me in. Get in, period.
And then you get in.
Then you get in.
What happens now?
And they say most of your learning happens after dental school anyway. But again, the best you can do for yourself is choose the school with the most exposure to clinical cases and things like that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to step out there not prepared.
Unfortunately, what I'm hearing is you get the bare minimum in dental school and you go out and learn after that. Schools with the residency programs, they will get all the complicated cases. So again, this is something I didn't know, because I know someone who's worked for a general dentist who's done kind of everything. The majority of dental schools, you will graduate without ever doing like a endo on a molar tooth. Like they only allow anterior teeth. So for people that don't know what that means, it's like the front, top and bottom teeth only, not your back molars, like anything with like 3 to 4 roots. You will never do that in dental school, most likely, for a majority of them, which I thought was so insane. For me specifically, I know that's something I want to do as a general dentist, is root canals. And to not even be able to practice on that.
That would suck.
Yeah.
And then you pay all that money.
All that money.
I'd be pissed. Who do I speak to?
Can you talk to your manager?
Can I talk to your manager, please?
But again, that's the reality of a lot of schools. Specifically for me, surgery and implants is very important. And guess what? Most schools, you will never do an implant.
I'm really looking forward to that. Like, that's probably the one thing I'm looking forward to.
Me too. We've always talked. We love the tech part.
Is that what it is?
I think so. That's a very high-tech procedure.
Yeah, it is. Now that I think
about it. It's not the norm. I think a lot of general dentists don't even do that, you know?
They don't. Now, does that affect graduation requirements?
It does. You only hear about these like horror stories of students not being able to graduate and not fulfilling all the requirements. And that's something I'm just getting into right now.
So I'm scared to death. Because I'm like, can I just get to this personal statement? And she's like, wait. Listen, look at what I just found. There's more. And I'm like, there's no way. There's so much tea.
There's so many tiers to this. Because once you're in, now, will my school support me in getting these graduation requirements in? Will I have to find my own patients? Do they distribute patients based on your requirements? This is not to scare somebody. I want to prep someone so they have information. Now that I know this, I know I'm going to go in there and I'm going to be proactive all the time about getting the patient, staying extra hours, assisting whenever I need to, making sure my face is always there, because guess what? Like, if you sit back and chill in dental school, you may never finish on time. And that's kind of
Hunger Games.
Scary thought, right? And that's not what I thought it was going to be like. But I'm just learning now it kind of is like that.
Put your mind in that, like, hustle mode. Like, I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying it to myself. I'm going to act as if I'm opening my own practice and I need patients. Going out there to get your own patients, like, that's scary. If your dream is to have your own practice, it's a good way to build that muscle. Like, okay, I know once I'm done and I open my own practice, I'm going to have to go get my own patients. Because some people think, oh, I'm going to have a practice, and the practice doesn't come with patients. Like, you have to go out and get them.
Right.
So I think, you know, even though that does seem like something less ideal, you can still find a positive.
I think that's what all dental students do, is they just kind of spin it in a positive light, and, you know, they're just trying to make it. And then the real work does come like afterwards. But I think that's a good mindset for me going in, is not expecting everything to be handed to me. Like, I'm in charge of my own like dental school journey. So that's why I need to be the most proactive student if I want to get the most out of dental school clinically.
Right. Another factor, diversity. Diversity. I'm going to say it till my face turns blue. Diversity is so important to me. I love being around different cultures. Being from New York, everybody is from somewhere different, and I just want to continue that. I don't want to be in one environment where everything's the same. So diversity is a very big thing for me.
That was important for me too.
While I'm applying.
I think top 4. I would say top 4 for me. Diversity was up there.
Yeah. Cost was number 1 for me.
Yeah, I think cost is for everyone.
And then little by little, like, it kind of made its way down my list. Because I'm like, after a while, it's just like...
They're all low.
They're all, like, kind of... It's like $30,000 differences based on the schools that I'm looking at, I guess. And I'm just like, now you have to match up. What else?
It is a balancing act, I think, of all these schools. Again, you will only know once you get in, and then you get to be choosy. You start ranking these schools based on, like you said, diversity, class size, location. Go wherever works for you.
Yeah, so diversity is definitely a big one. It's probably like number 2 on my list.
But you said class size wasn't. You don't care if it's small or large?
No. I've always went to big schools with big class sizes. The last time I was in the small classroom was still like 40 students, 30, 40 students. It was like high school.
This is something which I didn't really think about until I was choosing between two schools and one had a small class size versus another one that had larger. When you go for a tour or a interview, they're going to tell you, of course you have enough seats, but talking to these upperclassmen, they kind of state how you have to wake up at 6 a.m. to secure that seat. Like, you need to be super proactive to get that seat in clinics.
I can picture me now, like running to class.
But see, like, I didn't want that stress personally. I was like, I want a seat where I know I always have every single day. Like, I don't need to be fighting just to get my practice rounds in.
When I was in FIU and I was taking physics, it was like 200 people in the class. And if you were late, you did not have a seat. I miss that.
Well, I miss that. That just sounded too much for me personally.
I see that. Yeah. I guess you want to lessen the outside stress when you have such a... Okay, that's something to think about. I didn't think about it that deep.
Also, going on top of that, student to faculty ratio. So these bigger classes are going to have one faculty to like, let's say 30 students versus I know for the school I'm going to, it's 1 to 12. And I have another friend, 1 to 6. The smaller that ratio is, the better it is for you because you have more time to ask questions and one-on-one personal time with professor. So that's something to think about.
I did not think about
You would never know unless you're going through it and you're choosing between these two.
I have some stuff to think about.
Maybe some things to think about after this conversation.
I'm going to go back to my list. Like, okay. Yeah. The balancing act again. Like, okay, so what's really okay?
Right. That's not advertised on these websites. They don't tell you what the faculty student ratio is for a lot of these schools. So you have to actively ask admissions or students.
And there's like a ton of Facebook groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, that too.
Join. Would I be able to join them now or would I have to wait?
So this is interesting. There's some Facebook groups where you can join just as a pre-dental student. For example, I think DAT admissions. And there's also a DAT boot camp, or you can ask questions to the DAT. But recently, I've joined some others where you can only enter if you have your dental school like PIN number, so your ID. And joining these groups have been so eye-opening.
Remember the secret society we were talking about?
There's so many of these groups.
What's the handshake Sona?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I can't even comment or post anything. They literally sent me a message saying like, you are not allowed to comment. You can just observe.
That's scary.
Until you are actually matriculated in. So that's crazy.
I wonder what's in there. Like, sheesh.
It's just like helpful resources. You know, there's dentists on there talking about issues they have with patients.
Yeah.
There's dental students in there kind of complaining about what's not going right in their schools.
There's always going to be a downside to something. Like, there's going to be something you don't love about everything you go towards. So just focus on the good things and make sure those outweigh.
Yeah, I think that's a takeaway because I think every school is going to have a negative, like something wrong with them. But it's what you make out of it. This is not to scare anyone or deter someone from applying. It's just things I wish someone told me before. Despite knowing all these like scary negative things,
still doing it.
I'm still gonna do it, of course, and I still want to enjoy my 4 years. But now I'm aware of one, how hard it's going to be in and after.
How hard it's continuing.
It's gonna continue to be, but now I'm more aware and I know how to move forward when I'm in that spot.
Like just navigating through some of those difficulties.
And again, like, it's what you put into it. So I think I'm going to be much more aware of being in charge of my dental school journey. I want to make sure I'm doing all I can to get the best experience I can, especially knowing now the school's not going to hand me, you know, these patients, these procedures. Like,
I try to take everything and make it a learning experience or just find the positive of it. Because when you focus too much on why things don't work or why something's bad, like, you're never going to choose a dental school. So don't get too caught up in the bad when you find certain information that may not be ideal. Understand that you're not going to love everything about every single school, but focus on the things that are most important to you. And if that school aligns with those things, then match made in heaven.
Another criteria, which isn't really talked about, is community service. I know I applied to certain schools where that was emphasized. I know I really wanted to make sure a school has different programs in serving the underserved.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even...
Was that even on the list?
You guys are going to just hear me say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. We can count how many times I didn't know something. Don't. Community service. I think those are also great things. Like when you're required to do things like community service, I think it brings out a different side of you. Mm-hmm. And it reminds you why.
All dental schools do have that incorporated in their curriculum, but some do emphasize this way more than others.
How many hours is required? Because I know I have probably like 80. I think
to apply?
Yeah.
I think 100 to 150 is seen as like nice, but...
Okay, so I got a little bit to go. I do know a lot of my peers, some people that I know that are applying or looking to apply, their number one like non-negotiables is they want to be at a HBCU. I think that's cool. And they have a lot of community-based things, so if that's something for you, definitely look into HBCUs and their requirements and see if that's something that aligns with you. Okay, so Sona's going to take over this part because this is the side of the acceptance and getting started that I'm not quite there yet. So...
Well, I don't know everything.
Educate us.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I found out through my research. When also deciding between schools, looking at their schedule is super important. So some schools are pass-fail, which is known as the best.
That might be a criteria for me.
Yeah, because I heard schools like that is like less stress because you're not worried for between an A and a B. Like it's literally like I think pass like maybe over 70 or 75, and you're just way less stressed and. You know, you're still doing your work, obviously, but...
I feel like when there's not a number attached to something, it's easier to learn. Mm-hmm. I feel like when you're just going for, like, that 80 or that 70 or that whatever that number is for you to be able to pass, it's hard to, like...
They say that's the dream. If you're not worried about specializing, that is the dream. But then, see, this is where it gets tricky if you do want to specialize and go into residencies because they rank you based on your GPA and things. So how do you rank someone who just has a pass-fail? That's where they struggle with competing with the person who's been ranked and has numbers associated with their name.
Dang.
I know, it's multi-tiered here.
There's no loopholes. There are no shortcuts here. Okay.
But if you want to be a general dentist, that is the perfect scenario. It's a pass-fail at school, get your degree, and start working.
And then advice that I got when I was thinking about specializing or whatever, it's like wait till you get in. Wait till you get in and see what happens, because you can go in thinking, oh, I want to do ortho, which is kind of like what I thought I wanted to do until I shadowed at an ortho office, and you never really know until you get in there and you figure out like what works for you or not.
Right.
That's something to keep in mind.
They also say schools with the residencies already established favor their own students. If you're going to a certain school, like you kind of look better than the other person applying to that residency because you already went to their dental school. So they favor those.
Yeah. Also, some dental schools prefer residents or prioritize the state residents over others. I was like, that kind of sucks. I guess they have a certain number
a quota to meet for like in-state versus out-of-state.
Yeah, which I think is important to understand, because when you're choosing a school and one of your criteria is location, you want to make sure that that's a place where you'd like to stay and establish your career there. I think dental schools want you to stay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that a thing or is that like a myth? Like
I'm not sure.
They want you to practice, like they want you to stay in the state or something?
I think for those like public schools, yes. Because I know, for example, like all the Texas schools are notorious of only wanting Texas students. So in order to apply to a Texas school, your stats need to be like incredible. And I think there's other states in the South that are very similar.
When I thought I was applying before the master's, they were like, well, keep in mind that we do prioritize our residents.
Right. We're also saying, like, apply smartly. Don't apply to a school where you know you have, like, a 1% chance of getting in.
Yeah, because it is expensive. It can get expensive.
You have to be strategic. Another thing, which I just recently learned about when choosing between multiple schools, is certs you get during school. A really cool thing about the school that I'm going to is, like, they are very advanced and modern. For example, like, Botox certifications, Invisalign, laser, nitrous. A lot of these are things you pay for outside of dental school, like after you graduate, as in CEs. But some schools, it's incorporated in their curriculum. I thought it was really cool.
That's my number one, in case anyone wondering.
What is?
Having all of that,
yeah,
like, access to state of the art of the new stuff, Botox,
exactly.
laser. Like, I want to be able to walk out of dental school the way technology is going. I really want to be savvy in the tech space when it comes to dentistry. I know there'll be more that I can learn once I get out, but I don't want to come out and be completely like lost, because as a dental assistant, I saw how much technology helps.
I think we both work in offices that use CAD CAM technology to make crowns, intraoral cameras.
Yep, intraoral cameras, baby. Not only because, it's fun, but it helps educate the patient, which is the core of why we are so passionate about this.
Working with these advancements outside, like in dental offices, and how much like that office just runs better. Like, I don't know, it's easier.
It's just easy. It just helps with the education part of it, which I think is the biggest resistance when dealing with certain patients and in certain offices, is just the education part. But when you have all these tools, you're seeing what I'm seeing. I'm not lying to you. What you see is actually what's happening. That's why it's my number one criteria.
I think same.
Yeah,
I think same. It was.
So did you get your schedule yet for dental school? The one you got into?
Right. Not yet. I've been asking certain classmates and upperclassmen about what is a schedule in dental school like, because obviously for undergrad we're used to, like, let's say 5 classes every semester, certain times different week. And this is something brand new, which I didn't know. They say every week you will never have the same week. And I'm still trying to comprehend what that means. Like, because I'm such a planner and I like having structure, I'm not sure what that means.
I know you are probably going crazy.
Yeah.
One thing about Sona, she has everything planned and organized to the T. So I know that.
Yeah. So
it's going to be great, though, because you're going to be able to be a little bit more
fluid.
Yeah.
Adapt. We're used to one professor teaching an entire class. Let's say like human physiology, for example. But I've heard in dental school, you have a different professor for each subject. Each unit, yes. So like that's kind of insane. So you could have like up to 16 to 20 professors for one class, but they each specialize in each specific unit.
Something I'm curious about, because I feel like the semesters aren't how we're used to traditionally. So it's not like you have fall semester, which is August to December. Do you know how that works for some dental schools? If it's just like you have one class for 3 weeks, then you move on to another class?
That, what you described, would be block scheduling. So that's when you focus on one class for like 3 weeks, every single day, 9 to 5, one class. And then your entire semester's worth of class will be done in those 3 weeks. Laser focus on that specifically. And I think where I'm going, it's similar, but I don't know the details.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I cannot wait to hear. I haven't got past trying to get in.
Yeah, but again, this is the best part though. Like, you get to be on that journey and then also look forward to what's next.
Yeah,
and
I feel like I'm getting a sneak, like a pilot, like a preview.
Yeah. You think just getting in is the hardest part, but then now you have to be super aware, hyper aware of what's next.
It's crazy.
I know.
I didn't know it was that
It just gets crazier.
And it does. Every time I feel like I learned something new, she's like, wait, there's more.
There's more. So I guess, should we recap? What are some important criteria when choosing a dental school?
So the first one, which was my first one, is cost.
Location.
Clinical experience.
Class size.
If you want to go to HBCU, look into that.
Class culture.
Very important. Diversity. Cannot forget diversity. But what we just learned is when you're learning about the culture of the school that you go to, you got to think about class size. And the ratio for student to faculty. Did you know that? Because I didn't know that. I didn't even think to start thinking that way. Just crazy. What else do you think is a criteria that
scheduling, traditional versus block scheduling.
Okay.
Pass fail. Ranking. A ranking system. I don't think we've experienced as undergrads, right? Being ranked.
No.
But that's a new thing in dental school, which I've learned. So every year you find out your ranking according to your GPA and grades. I don't think it's shared among
They did that
everybody.
in high school.
Did they?
In my high school, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They ranked, yep. I went to a huge high school. They definitely ranked the students. you mind your business.
See, I've never experienced that. So that's kind of crazy to me that they're going to rank you every year. So you get your number, I guess, in an email or something.
Because you got to think, like, you represent the school, essentially. Mm-hmm. So they want the best.
Well, I think the whole tool of the ranking system is when you apply to residencies. Because other residencies want, top 10 students, top 15, depending where you're applying to or specializing in. Still learning about it. Don't come at me if it's like incorrect.
If you feel like you can add to anything that we're saying, share with us.
Comment below. Okay. I'm just learning about this right now.
This is all real time.
It is real.
We're not ahead of anything. We're just learning and sharing as we go. That was the whole idea of this podcast.
Yeah. It's like us talking together as friends and hopefully figuring it out.
Together. Because this is not something you want to go in on your own. Like, you want to get all the information you can as much as possible. And then you want to share it. That's the goal here. Educating and continuing to learn.
Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, like, subscribe,
comment, and hit the bell notification so you know every time we post.
Our social medias are linked below as always, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.